Hello and welcome in this video, where we are going to finally highlight the range of movement of our agents. So how are we going to highlight those tiles? Well, the simplest solution is go to our grid in our hierarchy, and we have created at the start of this video series a highlight tile map, and this tile map is currently empty. Now, if you recall, in our window and 2D, we can select our tile palette, which contains the tiles that we are using in our project, and we have props and we have ground palettes. Now our props palette contains this white tile, and if we select our highlight, we can use paintbrush to paint it. Now currently it is hidden behind other tiles, so we need to go to our highlight in the hierarchy and select it, and select tile map render and set the sorting layer to be on this layer highlight. And as you can see, we see this white tile that I have painted, but this is pretty bad because right now it will hide the terrain underneath it. So what we can do is select our highlight tile map again in the hierarchy, select the tile map and set the color and select the alpha to be something less than 1. So I have set it to be 0.3 for example, and it has become transparent, so we can paint another one of those, and as you can see, we now can see the trees underneath this range of movement. Okay, I will use the eraser to erase those two tiles. So this is how we are going to create those this highlight that is below our character but above our terrain that is already here. We can close this tile palette. But what we need to do is create a custom script that will take care of filling in this highlight based on our result from our graph search algorithm. So basically we want to only place tiles depending on the range of movement of the selected character. So let's go to our map, and I think this is a good folder to create this. Right click, create a new C# script. Let's call it movement range highlight. Okay, let's open it up. Okay, let me delete the update and start, and instead I will paste two fields. Serialized field private tile map. Right click on this, quick actions, and say using Unity engine.tilemap. This is the library that we need to use, and this will be called highlight tile map. And the second thing that we will need is a serialized field private tile base highlight tile. So this is the white tile that we are going to use and to fill this highlight tile map. Having those two, we need to have two methods. Of course, first thing is we need to always be able to clear the highlight. So public void clear highlight, it will be calling highlight tile map clear all tiles. This is the method that will clear all tiles from our tile map. The second method that we will need is a public void highlight tiles, and we are going to pass here enumerable of vector to ints. Now we could of course pass here a list, and this would be okay, but enumerable is a bit more abstract. If you go to the Microsoft documentation for C#, enumerable is simply an interface. It exposes an enumerator, so this basically allows us to loop using for each loop through the collection that we pass that implements this enumerable interface. Okay, so here we are going to again clear our highlight just to be safe, and we are going to loop for each vector to int tile position in our world position. So this is the enumerable that we have passed here, and we are going to call highlight tile map set tile vector 3 int tile position and highlight tile. So this is the tile that we are going to set on this position. Now if we go to our documentation for the tile map, it requires a vector 3 int position, but this is position of the tile on the tile map, not the world position where we click our mouse. So this is pretty important. So we may want to right click in our code on this world positions and rename it to be cell positions. So this will be more clear that those needs to be cell positions so that we have the correct positions set on our tile map. Okay, with this script done, let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Okay, now this is again important that our highlight tile map is on position 0, 0, 0, and the grid is as well. If we pass by mistake the world position, okay, so let's select our character movement object, since this highlight will be tightly connected with our character movement. So we can drag our movement range highlight onto this character movement object. We need to assign our highlight tile map, and we need to go to our projects, select your tiles _tiles folder default, and I think in our highlight we should have this tile base, so the asset that represents our white tile. So I will select our character movement and drag this highlight tile as the highlight tile reference. Okay, so now we need to make our character movement trigger this movement range highlight script when we get the range of movement of our character. So let's select our character movement script, click those 3 dots and edit the script. Okay, so in our character movement at the top we need to have a reference to our range highlight. So let's make it a serialized field and we are going to assign it through the inspector. Okay, so having this, when we call our handle selection, we calculate our movement range, and right now I think this is a private variable in our character movement class. So basically, when we get our movement range, we would like to call our range highlight, and we would like to call our highlight tiles, and we need to pass here I enumerable. Now our movement range is a list of tiles that we want to highlight, so we can pass it here by default, and it will work because our list implements the IEnumerable interface. Now bear in mind that the movement range currently is in the world position coordinates, but since our tile map matches it, we can pass it directly, but for safety we may want to convert it back to the tile map positions when we enter the highlight tiles. So we may want to pass here the world position and make sure that we convert those positions into the tile map positions. So this will be similar logic that we have in our map. So I think we had this logic where we get tile world position and get world position 4. So those are the methods that we want to call when we have our tile map with an offset. Anyways, in our character movement, we now should see our highlight. But before we do that, we also need to make sure that we clear our highlight. Right now, when we handle selection, we may enter this if statement and return before we clear the tiles inside our highlight tiles method. So just to be sure, we may want to call at the start of our method of our handle selection clear highlight. And actually, just to be sure that we can make this more modular, let's put it inside this if statement, select those 2 methods, right click, quick action, extract methods, and let's call it reset character movement. So we will know that this method will reset all the settings set in our character movement, and we may want to reset our movement range and unit selected and any field that we assign during this handle selection, the second part of this method. Now, one issue that is remaining is what happens when we call our handle movement. When we are going to perform a movement, but this means that our movement range will decrease. So make sure that you go to our handle selection and select those 2 methods that calculate the movement range. Right click, quick action, extract method, and let's call it prepare movement range. So now we are calculating here the movement range, and we are highlighting the tiles on our range highlight using our range highlight class. So what we can do now is when we call our handle movement, when we know that we perform a movement, we can call on our in our if statement. So when we know that we can move, if our this selected unit can still move, if this is the case, we want to call again this prepare movement range to show a new movement range. But if our character is out of the movement points, we may want to call range highlight clear highlight just to show that we cannot really move again. Okay, so this should be mostly it. Let's save the script. Let's go back to Unity. Great. Now make sure that you select your character movement in the hierarchy and make sure that you assign to character movement script the movement range highlight. Okay, so now if we click play, we should see in our game view that when we select our agent, the highlight will show. If we select somewhere else, the highlight will be gone. If we select it again and move, as you can see, we can only move here, so our highlight was recalculated. Now the recalculation is needed for the highlight, not for the movement itself, but we are performing 2 calls to our graph search, so this might be important for performance reasons. If we select the second character, the highlight was reset and it was set to a new highlight for this agent. If we select the second agent, as you can see, it all works. And if we select it again, we are going to see this highlight. So we may want to ensure that this highlight only appears if character has any movement points. So let's stop it and let's go back to our character movement script and let's reopen it. Okay. And again, we need to slide down to the handle selection and make sure that if this selected unit can still move, only in this case we want to call this prepare movement range method. Now, one more thing that we are missing is that prepare movement has cleared the highlight, and we only clear the highlight when we have detected object equals null. So our initial call to clear the highlight at the start of this method was correct, but right now, since it is called in our reset character movement, we can create else statement, and if this is not true, we are going to call range highlight clear highlight. And this way we are going to ensure that the highlight will always be cleared if we select a character that cannot move again. So let's save it and let's go back to Unity. Okay, I have already started the game, so if I select our character, perform the movement, so now it is out of the movement range. If I click on it again, it will not show the highlight. If I select the second character, now it can move. If I select the first one, the highlight was cleared because of our if-else statement, and it was not shown again because of our if-else statement. So now our highlight shows great, and if we can click the next turn, and we again can show the highlight for both of those characters. And it will all depend on the settings of our scripts data and farmer data and the warrior data that we have in our data folder. In the next video, we are going to start working on an enemy AI, since we have our worker, we have our warrior, I think we have here the warrior unit. So next thing is to implement the AI and make sure that our warrior can attack our AI and the AI can attack the worker and the warrior. And of course the towns, and later we are going to tackle the economies, the simple economy for the town and for the farms that we have already created. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you think about this video tutorial, and I will see you in the next video. Take care!